This is 510
A lot of lists have been coming out lately, which most of them I don't agree with, man. And I just want to let those who don't know that the whole music industry is a scam. It's not about talent. The numbers from the radio spins to the album sales or the streams, social media following, all is being manipulated straight up. While money and selling your soul to push the agenda of the elites, that's really the two main factors that determine who wins the game, determines the results that you see. Most of these websites that make these lists are not black owned, okay? And they're owned by people that's not from the culture, straight up. Like, it's people pushing a negative agenda on our community. And some of these media sites are owned by the labels. They're being paid by the labels, or some of these sites, they may even function as a record label themselves. And they have a history of profiting off of the demise of the black community by pushing the gangster rap image as a means to fund their private prisons. The private prison system, y'all remember from the meeting in '94, Cube was talking about, more people do more crime off of the media that they're being fed, and basically it's gonna regenerate slavery. It's a modern day slavery, free labor in the private prison systems. All right, the minority community, it's a permanent division. They want us to be divided. And I believe hip hop music has been weaponized, and it's the latest method to create a division and destabilize the black community, the minority community. All of us. We just gotta think, be smarter than that. Divided, we continue to fall. And when you anoint false prophets, the sheep, they'll continue to follow and be led to slaughter. And that's what's going on. That being said, for myself as an artist, I grew up watching Yo MTV Raps, Rap City on BET, dreaming of the fame and fortune, like a lot of everybody, everybody did that growing up in the 90s. When hip hop first came onto the scene, it was organic, it was pure, there was many different styles, the lyrics were more personal about that individual story, Storytelling was more of a thing, and skills were more appreciated. That was the golden era, and now it was real hip hop. Closer to the time of real music, even R&B was more authentic. Less electronic, more soulful, complicated song constructions and melodies, bridges and vamps. The labels made a formula that was more about money, pushing a sinister agenda. They took the art out of it. Hip hop was an extension of the COINTELPRO operation that took down the Black Panthers in the 60s. Or the Reagan administration, that backed the war on drugs during the bloody 80s, where crack was flooded into the black community as a means to fund the Iran-Contra scandal. All right? Is hip hop the new, is that the new method of destruction for the community? Man, that's something you got to think about. When I found out what was really behind this, I really stopped caring about trying to be on a major label and stop trying to be the biggest star, biggest artist, because it ain't worth it, man. I won't sell my soul and I can't be controlled. Yet I can't remain silent as the artists and the fans continue to be brainwashed, manipulated by the powers that be. So what we gonna do? We gotta find a way to fix it. How can we fix this as creators of the culture, artists and fans of the music? One way is to cut out the middlemen, with the hands out stealing, fake managers, janky promoters, radio promoters taking money for spins, concert promoters trying to charge artists to perform. I've seen it all. If artists took their music off the streaming platforms, that would be one way. Go back to direct to the consumer. That could make a difference. or help command a higher payout from these streaming apps like Spotify and Apple Music. If artists came together and put on their own shows at their own venues, you know, have our own little venues and festivals, and if that was the only way for the fans to get a copy of the album, you know, they pay for a ticket, they get a copy of the album on a flash drive or with a QR code on the flyer, and they can go and download that artist's own personal app, you know, that could be a way to do it. That's why I've been quietly building similar formats like that with East Bay Kings and 510radio.com, where we build our own community, we come together, network and business, and support the local talent, cut out the middleman. Whatever it is, the current model needs to change, or the culture is going to be completely gone and gentrified out of its oranges, out of its original state. The so-called fans of the music need to step up and show real support by participating in building, stop all the hating, you know, build with the local artists, you know, become an entrepreneur. We'll promote your business, you know, you promote our music. We come together as a community, you know, that's how it should work. I see too much competition instead of collaboration, you know, a lot of jealousy, too many chiefs, not enough Indians, and that jealousy and hatred is something that's going to continue to destroy the community and destroy the progress. We need to stop pointing out the flaws on everybody's music and everybody's, you know, brand, and support and come together and quit the crab in the bucket scenarios that keep going on. It's more prevalent in society than ever before with social media. Nobody wants to see each other win, and it reveals itself every single day. TikTok is like the content creators, streamers versus the artists and entertainers now. You know, I see a lot of people, the regular Joes, are tired of the so-called celebrities or the up-and-coming artists, and they're enjoying the crashing and the burning of Hollywood and the music industry. Because just to be real, I mean, you heard Snoop said it, man, 4 billion streams and you got paid $45,000. You know, the math ain't mathing. So we got to figure it out. We could do it all together if we, you know, stop all that hating and competition. So basically, it's all become one big toxic shit show, and we either need to come together before God, or he's going to come down and strike this whole thing down and destroy, you know, this whole planet and start over, man. You know, and it's deep. Yeah, I'm getting deep, but you know, it's deeper than music. It's deeper than your social media likes, and you know, it's society. It's a reflection of society. Yeah, man. So that's my take on it. This is you know, we back here downtown Oakland. You know what I'm saying, at the crib. My man, Big Tone, man. How you feel about this subject, man?
Well, for starters, hip hop, true hip hop, I think is dead. Nas mentioned it years ago for a reason. He is one of the artists that does have a lot of substance to his lyrics, and he's one of a few left. The influx of the South is what I have to blame as a responsibility for this. Romper room rap, hooked on phonics rap, and dumbed down lyrics that aren't really saying anything really have taken over the genre. And a lot of ignoramuses or illiterate folks that want to glorify that stuff and continue to pump it on their own social media sites and talk about it amongst themselves in the younger generation, unfortunately have watered down the genre itself. And true artists that have something to say, can put together quality lyrics, are kind of lost in the shuffle because they're not prominent with the generation of what I like to say dumbed down rap versus hip hop is. And so now a lot of this is like the true artists that really live it, that really work on their craft, that really have poetry backgrounds, they kind of get lost in the shuffle now because they're not hitting. They're not as popular. Okay, things that could fix that potentially could be, internet radio stations produced and started by the artist. And so they can control the narrative. They can control their spins. They can control what's played. And they can also infuse interviews and other things that can help them facilitate themselves getting out there. Because trusting the A&R these days is not probably the best option. They're not really facilitating the artists the way they should. And they actually try to do things for themselves. They're in the business too. So they're not just going to do things for free. They are going to manipulate, persuade, and bamboozle the artist, especially if they're not well versed and not reading the stinking contract and all that kind of stuff. This kind of things will happen. But they're always true artists, and it takes a true hip-hop head to be able to find and locate these artists still out there and sift through all of the trash, I like to call it, to find the artists of their choice and enjoy the music and hip-hop that they always used to like. So the 90s is the era really that I still listen to today because of the reasons that I spoke. And hopefully some of those artists that started in the 90s are still producing new albums today, like the Ghostface Killahs, like the Raekwons, like the Method Mans, like, those kinds of artists, Nas, and etc. So regardless how old they are, that's kind of where we're going with it.
Right. First of all, I would say I do like some of the South. Not all of it was what you said. Like Scarface was dope. He's a great lyricist. Andre 3000, Outkast. That's hip hop. I like Jeezy. I like Rick Ross. Man, that's a little more of the street era. How I grew up and what I was into. Because my pops was a dope dealer. So I got a lot of that in their lyrics I could relate to. So, and they were more lyrical and good storytellers, man. But like when Soulja Boy came out and and swag surfing and all that shit, I wasn't into all that. But that shit, that's people like that. I don't know. People want to dance. People want to smile and have fun or whatever. That's one element of it. That's fine. There's different elements of it. But why did they totally eliminate some of the people that actually are doing the original hip hop, that's telling stories and being lyrical and got actual, songwriting talent? When it's like, just don't give too much of one thing. You know what I'm saying? Give a variety. Like when it first came out, it was like, there was the Foosh Niggas, there was Tribe Called Quest, there was Too Short, there was DJ Quick, there was the Far Side. It was like many different styles until the labels found a way to weaponize the music, make money with their private prisons, because gangster culture makes them money, gets them free labor, and what I'm saying, like make money as a record company as well, and keep the people in the days, because they don't want militant a public that's rising up and figuring out what the government's doing. They don't want that. They don't want no revolutions. That's Tupac. That's Nas. Enlightening the people to like, look, there's something wrong here, man. We gotta organize and mobilize and get together, and we being played by the left and the right. Hip hop was a voice to give the message to the people that are not, that are waking up. You know what I'm saying? To figure out this system ain't shit. We being played. That's what hip hop was supposed to be for. But no, today it's they're pushing the shit that's keeping us fucking going to jail. Doing drugs, having kids out of wedlock, everything degenerate, everything negative for the black people, black community. That's the kind of music they want, because that's with that controlling us, and will us continue being under that spell. We'll never rise up. We'll never be successful and question the government and take back what's rightfully ours, and that's, probably need to be having our own nation, man. Because the reparations, they're not going to give it to us. It's like, what else are you going to do? You're going to revolt and secede from this nation and start your own country, basically. Which, I'm not saying it's that easy. And I'm thankful that I got food, I got shelter, I got my kids. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to make the most of what I have. But people need to get back what's owed to them. And I think the way hip hop is going, it's just another way to keep us asleep and keep us the status quo to continue on and on as it is. And that's not a good thing. So I just wanted to come on here today and had a lot on my chest. We're going to get it going. This episode 34. Your boy RENZ Jr., RENZ 510 Radio, East Bay Kings podcast at 510radio.com.